Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning to the other parts of the world. Hi, I'm Anisha from Oman Book Lovers Club. Thank you all for joining in today. It has been a wonderful season two of live chats on OBLC, Voices of Women. We have had authors of different age groups, for different age groups, writing different genres, and from very diverse backgrounds around the globe, sharing their perspectives and experiences as authors. I'm super grateful for all the love that OBLC Live Chats is receiving. But today is a difficult day for me personally. A very close family friend is going through some tough times, and but the show must go on, and that's why we are here. And I would request our viewers to please keep us in your thoughts and prayers because every positive thought makes a difference. Today, in the sixth episode of Live Chats at OBLC Season 2, Women's Edition, we are talking to the very talented Charlotte Duckworth, a USA Today best-selling author. She has published four novels so far: The Rival, Unfollow Me, The Perfect Father, and The Sanctuary. Her works are often described as psychological suspense novels about parenting, motherhood, and the challenges faced by modern families. She also writes contemporary book club fiction under the pen name Charlotte Rixon. Charlotte started her career working as an interiors and lifestyle journalist in the UK, writing for a wide range of consumer magazines and websites. So let's bring Charlotte on.
Hi.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Oh, this is
It's a
very
pleasure.
exciting.
Thank you so much for taking the time. It's really been a pleasure. And we've been in touch for a long time. I'm so glad we are finally here.
I know there's been a lot of setbacks over the last few years for lots of people, haven't there? So yeah, it's nice to be here.
So, Charlotte, we have given your professional introduction, but I think this is the time I would request you to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, what all have you been, the person behind the author.
Oh, okay. So my name is Charlotte, obviously, and I would say I am a bit of an introverted nerd, like a lot of writers. So I absolutely love writing, and I've done it my whole life. I mean, that's pretty standard. Most people say that when they're writers. But I actually, when I left university, I trained as a journalist to begin with because I went to see a careers advisor in my final term. And I said, I want to write books for a living. And he was just like, yeah, that's not a real job. Don't be stupid. Go and be a journalist. So I did a postgraduate qualification in journalism, and I worked in magazines for a very long time, which was such a great job. I think I was very lucky that when I graduated, there were lots of magazines still going, and I worked mostly on interior design ones. So, I mean, I really love interiors, so that's like one of my passions. So wow. I really had it was a great sort of second career, actually, really. I can't complain, even though it wasn't my dream career. It was a lovely career. And I also weirdly met a lot of novelists through my magazine days. There's lots of people who want to write books that are working as journalists, so there's a lot of crossover. So it was good in that sense too.
Yeah.
And then so what did I do after that? So you probably, I don't know if it's the same way you are, but magazines in the UK, unfortunately, they've sort of died a bit of a death thanks to the internet, which we do love, but at the same time has made a lot of magazines close down. So I then started working online. So I started working for like websites and doing a lot of PR and helping out with interior design companies with their blogging and that kind of stuff. So I did that for a while, and then I had my baby, and then I thought, I really, really want to write a book. I'm going to try again, because I had already written a few when I was in my early 20s. And yeah, the result was The Rival, which was my debut, and that was published in 2018.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but your passion for interiors is what I think we see in your beautiful, beautiful dollhouse.
Yes, my doll's house is my mini version. I have my house, which I've finished decorating now. I'm bored, so luckily I have my doll's house. That's an ongoing project.
Yeah. I follow your stories and posts, closely, and your updates are really very interesting. How you've done up your new house and that. So congratulations for that. And the dollhouse is adorable. People who haven't seen Charlotte's dollhouse must follow her on and get a glimpse. It is absolutely adorable. You just go and play it yourself.
Yeah,
So just
no, it
yeah,
no,
sorry,
sorry,
sorry, sorry.
I was going to say, I think that people don't realize there's so many amazingly talented like craftsmen making miniatures, and it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
anyone who can do anything like that is so skilled. It's, you know, it's not like a toy. It's, you know, it's not for children. They're proper, beautifully made things, and it's lovely. It's such a nice community. There's a lot of people who love miniatures. We're all slightly strange, but it's a nice thing to be a part of.
We'll we go ahead in the conversation, and you were just about to start sharing your writing journey, which is something we'll come to in the third question. So I'm going to take a moment and quickly say hello to all the people who have joined. They'll be very happy to hear hi from you.
Hi. Hello. I don't know if I can. Oh, hello. I can see you now. Hi. Benazir. Hi. I have to be honest. This is very exciting. There's lots of things going on my screen. Hi. Hi. Thank you for joining.
Good evening. I'm excited for today's chat. Thank you. Benazir again says hello, Charlotte. Yeah.
Hi.
Orla Coyne from
Hi, Ola.
can't wait to read
Oh,
the
thank you.
Charlotte's books, Orla in Ireland. Thanks, Orla, for joining.
Yeah.
Trupti saying hello. We're excited for this chat. Thank you so much, Trupti.
Hi,
And
Tripti.
Webby on your dollhouse.
To be
Yes.
honest, I should just have this on my doll's house now. I don't need to be in the screen, you know. That's much prettier than me. There is a lot of photos on my Instagram, so if you do want to see.
Awesome. Yes. And good evening, everyone. Excited to hear from you, Charlotte. Looking forward to reading your books. Great. So let's go on. So second question is, what kind of books do you write? We would like to hear it in your words.
Okay, so I write psychological suspense, but I think sometimes there's a lot of crossover with thrillers. So some people call them psychological thrillers. I see psychological thrillers as slightly more, there's maybe a bit more violence in them, and they're a bit more kind of slightly more pacey. Mine are more of a slow burn. So there's not like a lot of people getting stabbed in my books. They're not those kind of books, but there is a lot of kind of so it's a lot about character, I suppose, and different characters who maybe I see all my characters as good people that are doing bad things, and I love them all, and they're all damaged in their own way, and I kind of find them the most interesting people actually to write about. So yeah. it's a weird genre. I feel like a lot of the time people don't really know about suspense, so sometimes I say thrillers, but there aren't car chases. It's not that kind of, they're not those kind of books. They're more like about relationships between people.
We will, during the course of the conversation, we will be going deeper into each book and the stories and the characters. But the initial part is more to get a glimpse for people who haven't read your books. So, are your books based on any experiences that you may have had around you? Inspiration? What's really the inspiration behind your books and each story?
So I would say my debut novel, The Rival, was slightly based on my experience. So when I was pregnant, I had my own company. I ran a PR firm, and then I sold it after, like just before my baby was born, and afterwards. So obviously I went on to maternity leave, and I didn't have a job to go back to afterwards because I'd sold my business, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with myself, and I found it quite difficult having a newborn baby, because I'd always been quite career oriented, and like I've always worked very hard, and then suddenly I was at home with a baby, and I felt very sort of, it was like I'd lost my sense of self in a way. I'd lost my identity, because my identity was all tied up with my work and what I'd achieved, and then that was all gone. And that I loved being a mother, but I felt kind of like I was in this whole new world that I didn't really understand. So that was a bit of a seed of the inspiration for that novel, which is basically about a woman who is pregnant, but she's working in a very kind of high powered corporate company, and she's made redundant while she's pregnant, which unfortunately is very common. I don't know about where you are, but in the UK, lots of people, as soon as they get pregnant, suddenly
talking about it. I would just zip myself up and not because if I start, stop.
I know
agree.
it's not good. So there's actually a charity in the UK called Pregnant Then Screwed, which basically campaigns for women who've lost their jobs, and that companies can be very clever about the way that they get rid of staff that are pregnant. You know, they always find a way around like the legal route, so they're not doing anything wrong, but at the same time, you know, oh, you know, or people aren't promoted because they're pregnant, and there's, you know, it's a whole thing, isn't it? So I was kind of interested in that theme, and I didn't know of any novels that had been kind of that covered that. I mean, I'm sure there are some, and it was just that I hadn't read them, but it was something that really interested me. So I wanted to write about a character who was very high powered, who'd had this amazing job, and then she'd had to she'd lost it, and she was on maternity leave with her baby, and she just felt like she'd completely lost her sense of self. But in my book, obviously it's a novel, so I pushed it quite far, so she's actually quite ill in the book. I won't tell you too much about it, but it's quite twisty. Yeah. It was a very personal thing to write about.
Going back to the question, are all 4 books and the 5th one coming up inspired by some real life experiences?
No. So the second novel was more about, so that's Unfollow Me is about mummy bloggers and Instagrammers. Yeah, I won't talk about, but no, I would say The Rival was kind of the first one. That was the one that I really felt like is very personal.
It would be more of a mix of your first book being inspired by a real experience, but the others would be things that you observe around you, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll go deeper into each of the 4, in fact, including the 5th book. But the smaller questions first and the deeper dive later. So going back now to what you were answering before, or in fact, just before that, I'll take on the next few comments from the audience.
Okay.
Tenny says, Charlotte looks like a doll herself.
Thanks. I don't feel like it. Thank you.
Really awesome. Thank you, Pankaj, for tuning in. The dollhouse is making me want to jump in the window right now to explore.
I need to set up an Instagram for the doll's house, basically, I think.
I'll save this for later, I think. Yeah, that fits into the conversation later. Wow, the dollhouse. Okay, yeah. We have lots of fans of the dollhouse. I had one just like that as a child.
Oh, yeah, I love it. My child isn't allowed to touch it though. She's not really allowed near. It's not for her.
So yes, that's all about the dollhouse. There are a lot more questions about your writing and about your books and characters, which I will weave into the conversation later. So coming back to what you were telling us before about your journey as an author, tell us in detail about how did you start writing, at what age, and the entire journey of what made you venture on the path of writing.
Well, I think, like a lot of writers, I just loved reading. Reading was my absolute passion when I was a child. So I was non-stop reading. My parents could not stop me. And I used to write a lot at school. And then I don't know, I just thought it was the best thing in the world. And I obviously always wanted to write novels. So I did actually write a novel when I was about 11, which I do have somewhere in the garage in a box. It was slightly based on Enid Blyton, a little bit of a rip-off, basically, but it was about some orphans. Anyway, it was quite tragic, really, but it was blessed. I did actually finish it, it's quite a few pages, and then I sent it to Penguin, which is so embarrassing, and obviously they just sent it back and said, thanks for this, but maybe read it out to your friends at school. And I was just like, there's no way I'm reading it to my friends at school. If I read it to my friends at school, I will never hear the end of it. So anyway, that was my first ever book. But then I went to university and I studied classics, which obviously has a lot of literature in. I mean, it's kind of, it's quite a broad topic, but there's an awful lot about literature and reading and, history, obviously all these things I loved. And I think when I was at university, I was a bit lazy, so I didn't write anything then. But once I graduated, I thought, right, I really do want to write a book. So I did write a book in my early 20s, and I joined a group online, like a writers forum. And and I met some, I mean, I'm still in touch with loads of them, which is crazy because it's like nearly 20 years ago. But and we were all trying to write. So we used to, I've got a fly in my room, sorry. We used to like critique each other's work. So we'd upload pieces and then we'd give each other feedback, and it was just really nice. And it's through that forum that I basically found my agent. So I was, once I'd finished my book, I thought, what do I do with it? And my friends were like, well, you need to get an agent, you can't just get published. So I sent my book out to agents, and luckily I was I think it was a friend of a friend. She knew somebody who was setting up a new agency, and they offered to have a look at it. And then that was how I signed with my agents. This is a very long story. We might be here for days. You want the whole story? Because I don't want to bore everyone.
focus. You see, writing something interesting is just one part of it. But my next
Yeah.
question was, we let's talk about the process of publishing and what it takes to be a published author, in which you have already, because this is something that's really of interest for aspiring authors. A lot of
Yeah.
people may be talented and may be able to create something which is very interesting to read, but then getting it published is a completely different
Mm,
ballgame. So
it
yes, we
is.
definitely want to hear all the details, because a lot of our members are aspiring authors.
Okay. Well, so I did get an agent. I was quite lucky. So that part of it was quite easy. And I know some people find that tricky because there's not that many agents and there's lots of people writing novels. So I signed with my agent, and then we worked together on that book, and she sent it out and it didn't sell. Nobody wanted to buy it. So all the publishers said no. But I had some nice feedback from them saying, she's a good writer, she needs to keep going, kind of thing. So I wrote another book, and then my agent sent that one out, and that one got really close to being published. So I think it was, I can't remember which publishing house it was now. I feel like it might have been HarperCollins, but anyway, so one of the publishers really liked it, and the editor was really keen on it. But then there's a thing where publishers take the books to a big meeting where they all decide whether they're going to buy things, called acquisitions. And unfortunately, it didn't get through. So even though I was like this close, they said ultimately no. And then all the other publishers rejected that one too. Although my agent doesn't say rejected, she says they passed, because that's euphemistic. It's a bit more, doesn't sound as bad as being rejected. Anyway, after that, I wrote another book, because my agent was like, well, keep going, this is the life of a writer, you just have to keep going. So I did write a third book, but if I'm honest, sorry.
All this while you were still going, you still had your full day job. This was
Yeah.
writing was on the side.
Yeah, this was when I was working for a magazine, actually. So it was in my early 20s. So yeah, I wrote another book, but I have to be honest, I was a bit jaded by then. I was tired and fed up, and it was a lot of work. And I was spending my weekends when I could have been out with my friends, sitting there alone writing this book, thinking nobody really cares. And unfortunately, that book, my agent read it and she was like, it's not really good enough. I can't send it out. She suggested a lot of edits, and I was just like, I don't want to do it. I just think I kind of was burnt out. So I said, no, I'm going to have a break. So I actually I can't never remember exactly how long. I think it was 4 or 5 years off, where I just went and set up my business and I just focused on my career and I didn't write anything. And so, as I said again, it was only when I was pregnant and I had my baby, I thought, right, I'm going to try again. Before I get a new job, I'm going to write a book, because that's all I've ever wanted. And I was on maternity leave and I had some money because I'd sold my business. So I didn't desperately need to get another job. So yeah, then I wrote The Rival, and then it was like quite quick to get picked up. So it's a funny job. You never know. You just have to keep going.
Yes, it's a job of a lot of patience. It's
Yes.
not easy. Yeah, I just brought in between, our members just responding to what you're saying. Hi, Rukia. Thank you for joining today.
Hi.
So, let's go in chronological order now. We will talk a lot about your writing process, how to evolve the characters and the story. But before that, we've already talked about The Rival, as you just shared how the story developed. But I would like to go for us to go in chronological order and talk about your books one by one, including the backstory, like you shared in case of The Rival, and inspiration, and what are the books about. And allied question, which one of your books is your favorite?
Well, that's quite interesting, because I would say my favorite book is Unfollow Me, and that has been the least popular. So who knows? It's so strange. So that was my second book, and it practically wrote itself. So when I got my book deal for The Rival, I think I'd already finished. I can't remember now, but I immediately, as soon as that was finished, I was like, right, next book. I was kind of excited, and that came to me. The idea just came to me really easily, and it was about it's about an Instagram mum who disappears, and then it's about the followers. So it's not about her. Oh, it's so yeah, it's not about the actual kind of influencer. it's about the people who follow her, because I was really fascinated by those people, because when I was pregnant I did follow quite a few kind of mummy vloggers and stuff, because I obviously didn't have a clue about being a mum, and there was one in particular. She was pregnant at the same time as me, and I think her baby was born maybe 2 months before me, but when the baby was born she didn't tell anybody whether it was a boy or a girl, and I remember just thinking, oh, well, that's a bit annoying. We've kind of followed your pregnancy journey. Like, she'd been blogging about her pregnancy and, you know, the issues she'd had, and then she just sort of didn't tell anyone. And I got a bit cross, and I thought, why isn't she telling us whether it's a girl or a boy? And then afterwards I thought, oh my God, that's so weird. I don't know this woman. Like, I've never met her. She has no idea who I am, but I feel like I'm invested in her because I've been watching her whole life kind of unfolding. And so I think that was the sort of seed of it for me, that there are some people who are very obsessive, like, fans of these influencers. And I thought, what would they do if somebody like this one was
somewhat inspired by your real life experience a bit?
In a way. I mean, I was never as obsessive as these people, but I do know there are people who do get very involved, and they feel like they own these people that they're following. And obviously for an influencer, they need the people following them because that's how they make money. So it's quite a strange relationship between the two people. So yeah, I wanted to focus on them, and I really loved writing it. It was really, so basically in the book, the main character, who is this mummy influencer, goes missing. She deletes all her social media. She just basically vanishes, and none of the followers know what's happened. So they all start trying to work out where she's gone, or if she's, is she ill or whatever. And yeah, they go to some quite desperate lengths to uncover. So yeah, that was really fun to write, actually. I loved writing that book. But weirdly, I think maybe because it's not so it's not so dark as some of the others, it's not been as popular because it's probably more of a social commentary than a suspense,
Yes, I agree. Yeah. And then the next one. I'm sorry.
So The Perfect Father, that's been my most successful book, and ironically is my least favorite. So obviously I should just write books I hate because they do well. I hated writing it, and when it arrived I got sent a big box of them, and I was just like, I don't even want to look at this book. It was such an agony to write. It was really hard to write. But unfortunately that sold like way more than the others and seems to be the most popular, so it's very strange to me. But so that is basically about
a little bit, what is it about?
Yeah, so it's about a stay-at-home dad who kidnaps his own daughter. So it's basically about a couple, or they have a baby, and then the mother is very successful in her career, so she decides to go back to work, so that the father ends up looking after the baby. I can't tell you too much about it. It has a massive twist in it, so it's very difficult to talk about because it would spoil it. But basically, one day the mother gets a text message from her husband saying, and it just says sorry, and she thinks, what's he sorry for? And then she rushes home, and he's run off with their daughter, and she has to find out why, where he's gone, what's happened to them, and there's loads of stuff that she doesn't know that comes out. So it's more about a relationship, that one, whereas the other books aren't really about kind of husband and wives. This is my sort of more traditional psychological suspense because it's about a couple.
Interesting. Yes, that's one. Yes. And then coming to The Sanctuary.
Yeah, so that's my most recent book. So that just came out in March in the UK, and it's coming out in America in the summer, I think July or June. And that is about 4 pregnant women who go away for a weekend of kind of like pampering to a prenatal yoga retreat. And they all have a secret. And so does the lady running the place. And basically they're thinking they're going to have this lovely 4-star, like 5-star weekend of luxury and relaxation, and it's basically nothing like that. But again, can't tell you too much, but it's quite twisty, and it was really hard to write, but quite fun as well. With lots of different characters.
Yeah, awesome. And the one that's upcoming, could you share a little bit about that too?
Yeah, I haven't really talked about that very much. So it's called The Wrong Mother. It's coming out in December, and it's about a woman in her late 30s who's desperate to have a baby, but she's single, and she decides to sign up to a an app. So these things actually exist. App where you can, instead of, not like a dating app, but an app for people who want to be parents. So it's for men and women who just want to be parents. So they join up to become co-parents. And have a baby together without being in a relationship, which is quite a strange thing. Like, I don't know how I feel about it, but anyway, yeah. So she's things like
capable of a lot of things.
yeah,
I mean, I have cousins in the family, yeah, much younger ones. They wanted a baby all the time, but they never wanted a relationship or a marriage.
yeah,
There are people
yeah.
like that.
There are, and now there are apps for this. Obviously, the internet has made everything possible. So yeah. So basically, in this book, this Faye, who's the main character, she meets a man and he seems to be perfect and he's lovely and he's wealthy and he's desperate to have a baby as well. And they decide to have a baby together, and then it all goes wrong. So I'm not going to say any more, but it kind of, the book opens with her on the run with the baby, trying to escape from him. And yeah, that's, yeah, but it's not out till December, so I don't think I'm supposed to talk about it, so it's kind of exciting to be sharing.
I love the titles: Perfect Father, Wrong Mother, Unfollow Me.
It's
And
funny.
where your stories are, it's very easy to connect them, as if it's easy to relate to them because it's kind of part of everyone's lives. And also it's as if following a person's life journey at different stages.
Yes.
So it's very
Yes.
interesting, to read your
Yeah.
books in order.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I hope
So,
so. I feel, yeah, go on, you go. Sorry.
no, please, you say.
I was just going to say, I feel like I'm quite interested in modern families, and there's so many different ways of having a family these days and like different setups. So I feel like that's kind of my main interest. And when I'm writing, I really enjoy researching. Like, I quite enjoyed researching these apps, even though I think it's a bit crazy, and hearing stories. And it's worked out for lots of people. They're happy. They've had babies together, and they're not in a relationship, but they share the baby. And, as long as the baby is loved, I suppose that's
Very different ways, are different formats, I would say, are emerging of having a
yeah,
family. Or so,
yeah.
going back to the titles, how were the titles arrived at? Were they created by you? Did the agent and the publishers have some inputs?
Right, so I cannot do titles at all. So I'm trying to think if none of those books. Oh, The Perfect Father is the only one that I came up with the title. So The Rival was initially called Two Women, which is a terrible title. My publisher was like, no, that's terrible. Unfollow Me was called The Influencer, which I quite liked, but I think my publishers thought that influencer is still quite maybe not everybody understands what that means. So even though obviously we would, because we're on the internet, but and a lot of readers are actually older than you'd realise. So they wanted it to be something that wasn't complete. People would maybe understand a bit better. And unfollowing, like, is maybe slightly kind of more colloquial, I guess. And then yeah. The Perfect Father is obviously a bit ironic because he's definitely not perfect. So that was quite an easy title. And then The Sanctuary was going to be called The Retreat, but I think there's about 5 other books called The Retreat being published this year. So my publisher was like, yeah, it's quite common that there's titles get used up by other publishers. I think that's quite normal.
And there's no copyright mechanism on the book titles?
No. You can call your book the Bible if you want, but I think it's just a case of, if it's a competing book, obviously, and it's in a similar genre, then it's just confusing for readers. So it's better to give it something else. And actually, The Sanctuary works quite nicely. So
I've heard of one of our authors earlier share that she was a debutante author, and when she put her book up on Amazon, another successful and more popular, accomplished older author by the same name, and her book got registered under that author's name, and then the whole, it took months for them to resolve it.
Oh no,
So
yeah, that's stressful. Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's confusing, and I think these days readers need something very they want really punchy titles that are kind of, you can't be too obscure or literary. It's for this genre especially. They need to be immediate, like people will know, oh, that's something I want to read, kind of thing. So there's like, there aren't that many titles basically. We're all competing.
Awesome. So we're going to jump to some of the audience questions again, and then we come back to a little bit about the writing process.
Mhm.
So there's a question from Beverly which asks, which book of yours do you enjoyed the most? Now I don't know if she means writing or reading. So why don't you answer from both perspectives? If you were
Oh,
a reader, which one would you say you would enjoy the most reading, and which one did you enjoy most writing?
I definitely enjoyed writing Unfollow Me the most. That's easy answer. I loved writing that book. It wrote itself. It was so easy. No, I shouldn't say it was so easy. Obviously, it wasn't that easy because writing a book is not easy. But you know, out of all of them, it was the easiest. Which one would I enjoy reading? Probably The Rival, because I feel like it's not some the topics covered in it maybe haven't been covered in other books, and as it was quite personal to me, so I feel like, you know, I would probably as a reader identify with it. And actually, interestingly, I get the most emails from readers about The Rival, so a lot of people saying, you know, I read that and it made me
Yeah,
cry or whatever, or it felt like my story, and those are really nice. So
I
yeah.
yeah, I agree that that's a subject that it's very commonly everybody would at least half
Yeah.
the population on the world is women would be able to, and then
Yes.
maybe a certain percentage of them would be easily would find it easy to relate to. So I'm sure that's a subject which will resonate with a lot of people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sadly.
Coming back to so all as you build the story, do you think any of your characters take after you? I mean, especially like when you were writing The Rival, it was based on something that you experienced. So do you think the protagonists there, do you think the character building was inspired by your own character traits, or any inspiration from people close to you or around you?
um that's I feel like all my characters are like melting pots from lots of different people I've known or met or read about. And so I take small bits of everybody and put them all together and then create something. So there's not any specific people. And I feel like I don't think I'm like any of my characters particularly, but there are traits in all of them that I might share. And yes, I mean, in The Rival, Helena is the main character. We're
Yeah.
quite similar, but not no, I would say she's still quite different from me. But it yeah, I feel like most writers just bring a lot from everything they've experienced, and you know, and it's very strange how characters are created. And also I think it's a process. Like, they don't just come, well, for me anyway, they don't just come like completely formed perfectly and that's it. I quite often have to work on them, and there's lots of edits, you know, so they get kind of finessed over the process of writing.
Mhm. So, at that note, would you like to read an extract from one of your books? Again, let's connect it back to the previous question. One of your favorite books.
Oh no, okay, I can read what from Unfollow Me. Let me see. Okay, I can read the there's a prologue to this. In fact, I think all my books have prologues, which is maybe because of the genre. So this is Unfollow Me. I know everything about you, Violet. I know your mother's name is Joy. I know your sister is a paediatric nurse, that she has twin boys. I know you sold your first flat, a tiny one bed in Blackheath with bubbling wallpaper and an illegal roof terrace, for £300,000, double the price you paid for it. I know your father gave you the deposit when you moved to London at 21. I know the house you now live in cost you and Henry almost £3 million, and that you also own the villa in Marbella that you pretend belongs to your parents. I know that you lie about your age. You're 38 next birthday, not 36. I know that 2017 was your most profitable year yet, that you've set up a trust fund for the children, somewhere to put all the money that keeps flowing your way. I know you have hair extensions. I know the name of your hairdresser, Pablo, and that his partner is called Ian. I know where they live. I know you're loyal to him now, that you consider him family, that you always spend New Year with him and Ian, drinking champagne out of saucers, wearing an outfit that costs more than I earn in a month. I know that you only got into journalism by luck. I know your ex, Angus, now married to Isabella and living in Surrey, got you a job as an editorial assistant on his golfing magazine, and that you charmed your way across one of the world's biggest media firms until you were a features writer for a women's magazine. I know that you were good at your job, no matter how much it annoys me. I know that you met Henry in the bar by the office. I know that it was a work night out to say goodbye to one of the PAs. She doesn't play much of a role in your story, but even so, I know her name was Janet. It's been so easy to find it all out. All I needed was time and determination. You've left it right there for me. All that information, all that power, just waiting a few clicks away. It's what you want after all, isn't it? Without an audience, without people like me watching, then what are you? No one asked you to put yourself on the internet. No one asked you to leave breadcrumb trails of your life across the World Wide Web, just waiting for a hungry bird like me to gobble up. I know everything about you, Violet, but what do you know about me? That's the prologue.
Lovely. Very, very fascinating for those who haven't read it. Of course, I when he starts reading with that, so it was very curious for me as well when I started reading and follow me.
Oh,
Wow. I was relating to that point, when you said in the prologue that you did not know about genres when you started writing, and your agent and your publicist told you, okay, this is thriller. And
yes.
then how today you made a differentiation between thriller and suspense. And I also did not see it that way, but because we also keep working on genres for our library. So, but yes, I see the difference between suspense and thriller, as you say it.
It's really subtle, but I can immediately tell if something is a thriller. I think thrillers are just generally, it'll open with a dead body and it'll be like doesn't let up, whereas mine is more you'll get to the dead body at the end.
A thriller should scare you, a suspense plays on your mind. I think that's maybe
That's a nice. I've never heard that. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
it just came naturally.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. That's exactly it, I think.
Because what you're figuring out is what is playing on my mind, why, what. But whereas if you read a book like A Silent Patient, for example, it's a thriller. It's scary. Even though you know nothing's happening, you will feel like, oh, is there somebody standing right
Yes.
there?
Yes.
So yeah, that's what made me still say that. So what kind of books do you like to read? Do you think your writing is inspired by what you read?
Yes. I mean, I think everything you read inspires you. I find reading is my biggest, like the thing I'm the most embarrassed about. So I'm really slow at reading. I'm quite a quick writer, but for some reason it just takes me a long time to read books. So I tend to read a lot of psychological suspense because I get sent a lot from publishers now, and I do read a lot of thrillers as well. But actually, if I was reading just kind of like I was on holiday and I just wanted to read something for pleasure, I'd probably read more book club fiction. So not so much romance, but like just things that have issues in that are kind of interesting, but maybe not as fast paced. So slightly more literary stuff. That would be my kind of choice. But I will read most things. I actually love reading non-fiction, so I love reading memoirs, autobiographies as well.
Oh, interesting. So story is a general theme.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's now come to the writing process, and there are lots of viewer questions here too. How do you build a story once you have the idea? Different authors have shared how the story happens to them, or they construct it in an organized fashion. So what's your writing process, and how do you build the characters and the story after once you decide this is a topic I'm going to write on?
So how do I would say I'm not really a planner. So a lot of writers I know are very kind of organized, and they sit down, they make a spreadsheet, and they have every single scene, what's going to happen. Whereas I tend to just I have a character, an idea. I usually have a twist because my books have twists in, and then I sort of just go and just write and see what happens. And I find that's the most interesting kind of way of writing for me. I think if I had to do a detailed plot beforehand, I would find it just a bit boring, really, because it would be like I've already written it. So I enjoy the process of working out what's going to happen, and quite often things take me by surprise, or I'll change something completely. So it's not a very kind of efficient way of writing, I suppose, but it seems to work best for me. And I do a lot of edits, so I write quite quickly. I will write a first draft in probably 6 to 8 weeks, and then I'll edit it a lot. There's a lot of editing, so it's kind of my first drafts are nothing like my published novels.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we have something similar. So if anything that you'd like to add, how do you develop your characters, and how the story evolves around, and it's similar, how the characters developed. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I find characters are really tricky, and I think the interesting thing is the more books you write, the harder it is, because you want them to be different each time. So that's I mean, I wish I could explain it more. It's kind of, a lot of the time, I will say, with this kind of book, the characters do slightly serve the plot, so it's not just character led. It is, there's got to be a lot of, there's got to be a twist. I've got to work towards that, so I've got to think what kind of characters would work in this story, which is sort of back to front really for writing. You should probably focus on character first, but I do have amazing editors, and they help me a lot with character work, and it is just a case of thinking really deeply about their motivations and why they're doing these things and what's in their past that's making them behave like this. And I always like to try and make all my characters slightly, I want people to see they have redeeming features. They're not bad like through and through. That's kind of important to me, that they're, even if they're doing terrible things, there's part of them that you would sympathize with. You understand why they're doing those things. Yeah. Good people doing bad things.
So one of our audience members asks, who's your inspiration? I don't know if they meant only as in the writing perspective or in general in life. So maybe whatever you'd like to answer.
Well, from a writing perspective, I really admire people who can keep coming up with ideas that are fresh and original. And I think that is the challenge in this job, is like having longevity. So writers that, like Lisa Jewell, who've been writing for God knows how many years, and they're still coming up with amazing books and concepts and plots. So people like that I find very inspiring. I'm really inspired by my editors. I think they are really intelligent, wonderful women, and their input is amazing and really helpful. And the same with my agent, is very helpful too. So but I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I generally look up to people who work hard. I think that is the bottom line really. There's no shortcut. You just have to keep going and work hard.
Awesome. Here's next question from Sakshi. It's a big interesting question. Talking about Instagram moms, what do you think of the movie A Simple Favor? I haven't watched it. Have you?
Do you know what? I think I saw it like years ago, but I mean, it's been out for a while, hasn't it? I think I really enjoyed it, but I can't remember it because my brain is, I'm so bad at retaining information. I did watch it, and I think I enjoyed it. My book, I would say, is less, that it was quite dramatic. I feel like that was more of a thriller. As I said, mine's more slow burn. But yeah, I'm fascinated by any books about the whole influencer world. I find it still really interesting. So, and books and films, yeah. I feel like there's more coming out. Like there was one published I don't know if it was last year, the year before, called People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd, which is a similar thing about an Instagram mum, and that's done really well, and that's a really good book. So yeah, it's a really weird thing, social media, isn't it? I mean, look at us here sitting chatting. It's amazing.
I feel it's a whole world created in its own way. I mean, with the competition there, with the pressure to just be out there, and it's if you're in a profession which demands it, it's even worse. Even personally, people feel that, I mean, all of us do socially. Okay, the other one is doing this, and I should be doing this too, and all of that.
Yeah.
Difficult.
And if you have children, I feel like I was really, so when I was pregnant, I used to blog a bit. I didn't really have like hundreds of thousands of followers, but I did have quite a lot of people reading my blog, and I talk about being pregnant. And then when my daughter was born, I thought, oh, do I want to share about her? Like, it's the privacy thing is interesting to me, and obviously a lot of people are making money from sharing their children, and I think, what, if you have to do that, I would not judge people for doing that. But at the same time, it interests me, because I think, what will those children think when they're older? Maybe they won't care. Maybe they'll just be like, that's the way it is these days. There's no such thing as privacy. We're all, photos of everybody all over the place. So it's a topic that I find quite fascinating. So yeah, I'm definitely open to reading more books about it.
Overall human behavior is changing. The dynamics of the world is changing. There's just new things happening, and you just have to adapt. You just can't just stay behind.
That's true. Yeah, unfortunately.
So, this is very interesting. If your book were made into a movie, which actor would play your lead character? And pick any book you like, or at all.
Do you know what? It's so. I okay, I feel terrible. My partner is an actor, and I'm so bad at like anything to do with acting or celebrities, or like I'm clueless. So people quite often ask this, and I should have prepared an answer, and I don't know because I don't really know. I mean, no,
Then
I
since
can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
actor, then he
Failed.
should star in movie. That isn't that
He
simple?
should. He should be in it. Yeah, he can be it. No, he's too old. No, but bless him. He wouldn't want to, I don't think. It's so hard because I know people ask this question. A lot of writers I know also will have like a mood board, and they'll have pictures of the actor that they imagine would be that character. And I've never worked like that. I'm not so much a visual person. I'm more a words person. So yeah, I'm sorry not to. I'll have to think. I'll come back to you.
I have an idea for you. If your partner is an actor, we should be seeing more reels, entertaining reels on
Oh
your
my
page.
god. Yeah, but you see, he's really bad. He's really bad at social media, and he hates it too. So he's an actor that's quite like
Okay. I
introverted.
don't
So yeah.
want him coming all the way to Oman to give me a punch, so it was just a joke. Okay.
Oh god.
Interesting question, and that's great.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. I'm sorry.
what do you do when you develop a writer's block?
Oh, okay. So I was a journalist for a very long time, and I sort of don't believe in writer's block because I just think it's a job and you have to do it. So if I really feel stuck, I'll just write rubbish, and I'll just think, well, it's okay because it's better than nothing. And usually you just keep writing, and usually things start to, well, for me anyway, unfurl as you're writing. So yeah, I've always been a bit cynical about writing. I understand sometimes there's plot problems where you'll be like, I can't figure this out, I don't know what to do. And in that case, I will go for I mean, it's very cliched, go for a long walk, or I will talk to my partner because he's really good at actually, because he's obviously studied a lot of plays and stuff in the past. So we will have a good chat, and he'll even just talking to him sometimes will loosen things, and then I'll come up with ideas. But generally speaking, if I'm having a day where I don't want to write, and I just will make myself, because I think this is my job. I don't have I can't just go. It's not like you wouldn't walk into a normal job and go, I don't feel like it today, I'm just not going to. So I will just write, even if it's rubbish, and then I know that I can come back and make it better. So yeah, you just have to keep going.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. Because of course, it's a creative profession, so you can have a blog, but then I agree. I mean, you have to just keep doing it, and you can always come back and improve it if you
Yeah.
feel the need. Yeah, great.
And no one has to read it. Like, you can write whatever you want.
So one of our members says hello. This must be a
Hi.
message.
I like the flower.
The sanctuary. The setting is described extremely visually, allowing you to picture events easily. Is there some actual reference to the place? Is there a place you had in mind while writing it?
Yeah, so it's set in Devon, which is in the west part of the UK, and I've been on holiday in Devon probably my whole life. So I spent a lot of time. My aunt lives in Devon, so it's probably one of my it's pretty much my favourite part of the UK. So I found that quite easy to describe because it's a very beautiful and warm, usually, place. So yeah, for me, it would be the perfect place to go for that kind of retreat. And I think actually there probably are a lot of yoga retreats set in Devon. So yeah, that was easy.
So yeah, I mean that was easy. That's a good information for us to look forward to. If anybody like that.
Definitely go to Devon. It's amazing.
Remya is one of our members. She's looking forward.
Hi, Remya. Thank you.
Rukia has asked the same question, which we already covered. So we'll move on to the next. Writing is interesting. Writing is an extremely private act. How do you feel before sharing your first draft with others? What do you think? Do you think writing is private?
Yes, I understand what you mean. I think I feel like for a lot of novelists, the first book you write is really personal, and you feel like you're putting so much of your soul into it, and then it's very strange, the idea of people reading it. But I think once you've written a few books, I definitely feel more detached from my later books, because I've thought about them as a product, and it's a business, and I'm writing for an audience that are expecting a certain thing. So I feel less precious about it, and there's less kind of me in them, I suppose. But I would not share a first draft anyway. I mean, I would edit it like at least twice. So I would say then my agent would see it. And my agent, I've obviously had her on my side since I was in my early 20s. So I trust her, like we're really good friends. So she would, I mean, she can be brutal. She can be like, this is crap, you know, it's fine. But I respect her opinion. And yeah, I think these things get easier the more you do it, basically. Yeah.
Some comments there. I think this is from when you were reading the excerpt. I know you lie about your age. Love it, and I'm so excited to read Unfollow Me.
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope you like it because it's so interesting that people, that's not been the most popular. But anyway, I love it. It's my favorite.
Some reactions and responses there. We'll just quickly, skip by. I think these are responses to when you were reading the excerpt.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It is such a privilege to hear an author read their book, of course.
Oh, God. Definitely. That's where I should get my other half to do it. He's a trained actor. I'm just like,
Thanks, Obi. Thank you so much, Sakshi. That's really kind. Tenny asks, my daughter is asking one. So her daughter is 8 years old.
Oh, bless her.
So it's a question from an 7 or 8 year old. My daughter is asking, how do you feel as an author? 2, were you nervous the first time you wrote a book? Oh,
bless you. Well, my daughter's 6. She wants to write a book too. Yes, I think being a writer, an author is definitely the best job in the whole world, like hands down. It's amazing because you're creating your own worlds and you can do anything in it. And also, you know, it's something from nothing. So you're literally creating something from just your brain, just your imagination, and you're getting to use like the most creative part of your brain pretty much every day, which is such a privilege because lots of people have jobs where they can't be creative, and you know, everybody is creative on some level. So yeah, it's an amazing job. I'm very, very lucky. And was I nervous the first time I wrote a book? So I was quite young. Like I said, I was probably 11 or 12 when I first wrote a book. I think I was quite cocky and arrogant, and I thought I was brilliant. So I don't think I was nervous. But I was quite embarrassed when, as I said, Penguin wrote back and told me that they were not going to publish my book, but they thought I should read it to my friends, which I didn't do. But yeah, I think you know what, you have to put that to one side and just get lost in the world you're creating. And if you feel nervous about it, nobody has to read it, and you'll still get so much from the act of writing, even if you never share it with anyone. You know, it's still worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Thank you, Teresa, for the wonderful questions. We enjoyed questions from you.
Yeah, good luck.
So, just a hello from Parjeet, it seems.
Hi.
I think you've kind of answered this, but you know, if you have a different answer for this one, whenever you write, who's your first go-to person and who's the best critic?
So yeah, I mean, my agent reads everything that I write first. And who's the best critic? My mum. My mum is the best critic. My mum is not the sort of mum that tells you that everything you do is amazing. So my mum reads my books and goes, yeah, I don't really like that bit, or I didn't really think that bit. So if my mum likes my book, then I feel like I've really achieved something. And actually, with my latest book, she was like, this is the best one. This one's quite good. I'm like, okay, thanks, mum. So yeah, she's my harshest critic.
I hope watching or she watches later, and
Cool.
awesome job. We're getting good books out of Charlotte because of you. Thank you.
Oh, she'll love that.
So, for members of our club, Charlotte, when maybe slightly serious question, what does it take to make writing a full-time career? You know, we see a lot of aspiring authors who have a day job and then they write on the side as a hobby, aspiring to be authors, but it takes time to be able to start paying back, because it takes, for many people, it's many years, almost even decades, when they start writing slowly. So what do you think, which is the time when you decided to leave your career behind and take up writing full time? And what do you think somebody to be successful as, you know, being a writer as a full-time career, to be able to sustain themselves?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's very, very hard to ever get to a point where you can say, this is it, this is all I'll ever need to do. I think you have to be Marion Keyes or Ian Rankin, or a massive big brand author, and then that's it. Whereas with me, I feel like at the moment I'm writing full time, but I've had so many jobs, I'll do anything pretty much. So I also do web design. So I think.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so I've stopped doing that now because I'm writing 2 books this year. But I think what's really helpful when you're a writer is to have lots of kind of, the whole portfolio career. I don't know if where you have bits, you do lots of different things. So, and they're more flexible. So it's so difficult. I mean, it's really hard, and it's not a reliable income stream. And especially if you have a family, which I do, it is very tricky because, you can earn a lot one year and nothing the next year, and you just don't really know. But I would say, obviously, the most important thing is to keep writing and to publish as many books as you can. So I know writers who've written 1 or 2 and then had a few, like a few years off, and then it's like, obviously it's harder to get back into it. And I think you have to treat it you have to be kind of serious about it. And there's a lot, like, obviously, sorry, my 5th book is coming out later this year, and now I've noticed with the 4th book that a lot of people will say, I really enjoyed that, I'll go and read the other 3. So the more you write, the more you sell, because people, if they enjoy one book, they'll look and read the others. So yeah, so basically just keep going. Sorry?
It's kind of an effect that will keep going on as you write more.
Yeah, definitely. I think you just have to keep going and keep writing. And, obviously, my books are all quite similar. So if people buy one of my books, they kind of know what they're going to get. So it's quite tricky. I really admire writers who can write lots of different books in different genres. I think that's quite unusual. Mostly you have to sort of find a genre, a commercial one that people buy a lot of, and yeah, keep writing. But it's it's a lovely job, so I'm not complaining. It is tough.
Like, I think most creative professions are tough to get your footholding into.
Yeah.
I think once you gain the popularity, then it's like I said, the ripple effect. Once you have your thing rolling, then it snowballs.
Yes. Yeah. The more you write, the better, basically.
Just a response on your last answer. Okay. So what's up next? What can we look forward to? We know The Wrong Mother is coming up by the end of this year. What can we look forward to after that? Anything different or new that you're working on?
Well, so I have another book coming out next year, which is in a different genre. So that's under a different name, which I think you mentioned at the beginning. And then I'm currently, so for that book, I got a 2-book deal in the UK. So I'm writing the second book for that 2-book deal at the moment. And so the book that's coming out next year is called The One That Got Away. And that's more of a romance. Well, it's I wouldn't say it's romantic, but it's also quite dark. So I think my publishers are categorizing it as women's fiction or commercial, contemporary fiction. And then I will be writing another suspense, but I'm sort of playing with ideas at the moment and talking to my agent and stuff. So yeah, that will be later in the year because I'm doing 2 lots of edits at the moment. It is melting my brain slightly.
Amazing. I would really be very excited, and I really wish you the best. It will be fascinating to see one of your books turn into a movie, and because like you said, thriller, it's a psychological suspense, so it's going to be really slow burn, like you say.
Yes. Well, I had a near miss with The Perfect Father. I had some people interested, but it didn't happen in the end. So fingers crossed. It's a very that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Hopefully one day.
Yeah. All right. So we are at the end of our list of questions, unless something else comes in from the viewers. Is there anything else you would like to add from your side? Anything else you would like to share that we missed asking you before we go to the giveaway winner?
No, I don't think so. Thank you. It's gone really quickly, and thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to talk to you, and after all this time.
Actually, it's been an hour, and honestly, even I don't feel like we've been talking that long.
That's gone quick.
It's gone very quickly.
Yeah, it has.
So we had shared the list of giveaway winners with you earlier before the chat, and them have been actively participating on the live chat too, as you would see from the names. So it's up to you to choose the winner now. We had a slight change. Instead of one winner, we are giving out 2 winners, which was a surprise from very kindly agreed by Ella from Kyrkus. So thank you so much, Kyrkus Books. And so the two winners are up to you now.
Okay. So the UK winner, who is going to receive a physical copy of The Sanctuary, is Orla Coyne. Hope I pronounced that right.
Yay! Congrats, Orla. She asked very fascinating questions too.
Yes, she did. She did. Thank you so much. And I don't know how to pronounce your username, so I'm just going to say Orla. And then the second winner is going to receive the ebook because it's worldwide. So, and that is Cat Reader 18. I think her name is Sherry. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you so much for kindly giving away the books. And that's it from our side. We really, really want to thank you for agreeing to spending some time with us. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers, members will love this conversation. People who watched today live, people who will be tuning in later with the recording, because lots of fans of your books around here.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you all for tuning in today and asking all the fascinating questions. It was a chat I thoroughly enjoyed. Stay tuned for our next episode of Live Chat with Jane Jaffer, Oman's very own author, who we all know, on 31st May, Tuesday. The prologue to the live chat will happen as usual on Sunday, 29th May. Thank you all. Good night. Bye-bye.